Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the town board meeting for Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. And thank you to everyone for waiting for the slight delay. We have a brief work session to go through before we launch into our town board agenda. So I will turn it over to Town Administrator Jill Shapiro to walk us through the work session agenda items. Jill?
Okay, thanks so much. So the first thing on our agenda is the community center roof. Revisiting this once again. We reached out to the Architectural Review Board at the town board's request. They felt that the slate roof and the stone copings, consistent with what is there presently on the building, should be maintained. The board will recall it is just shy of $100,000 change order for those upgrades, asphalt versus the shingles, the slate. There's a little bit of a wrinkle in the slate installation, and that is that we would not be able to do it this year. We would have to wait until spring. The quarries, because of, it's my understanding because of COVID, they don't stockpile the way they used to, materials. So we would have to put the order in now, and then we would have the slate quarried for us for the spring, for spring installation. Tom DePole reached out to our building maintenance department to ask whether or not the roof could withstand another winter. They told me that it can. They wouldn't recommend that we go any farther than that, but just to that point, and that they would spend particular care making sure that the gutters didn't back up, which is what they were concerned with, ice damming and stuff like that, that would more severely compromise the roof. So if they know that they're going to have to pay particular attention to it, they will. So I come back to the board and I ask for your decision on the upgrades of slate and the concrete copings, which are the edges that join the one section of the building to another,
Jill,
and ask what you want to do.
Can you remind me what's the cost savings if we utilize the synthetic slate instead of the regular slate?
That was not one of the options. That was not one of the
that.
options that was given. It was not one of the things that was bid. So that was not one of the options that this bidder gave us, and it's nothing that the Architectural Review Board wanted to consider.
Okay, I think personally that's a huge mistake. I should have sent you a picture of my roof. It really looks the same. So if the Architectural Review Board is concerned about the aesthetics of it, it's really similar looking. And I think, I'm not sure, you could recognize the cost savings. I thought we talked about going back last week and asking for what that cost would be. Because my guess is it's going to be somewhere in between the actual slate and the regular roofing tiles.
I don't know if this is something that our contractor works with. It wasn't included in the bid, so it's difficult for me to do that.
Right.
It wasn't one of the options that we bid.
I always like to say, if you don't ask, the answer is definitely going to be no. So I'd be curious to see if they offer that. I mean, just during this time, I think it's fiscally irresponsible to spend an extra $100,000 if we might have a legitimate, very good option that will save us some money. I think to ask the question is not that big a deal. We're not committing to anything. We're just asking a question.
I think especially, I agree, especially since we're not going to be able to do this till the spring anyway.
I'm with Jason and Lisa on this as well.
Okay, the question is, do we need, what process would we need to do this if we were to consider using synthetic tiles, right? Does that mean negating the bid and starting over? Right? There's probably some process for doing so.
Is that true, Nick?
We would have to discuss this in the executive session to really go through what those options are.
Well, then we probably should have that conversation. It sounds like that's what the town board wants to do. That being said, if that doesn't work, meaning the synthetic slate, if that's not something that will be acceptable, I do believe that slate, because this is a centerpiece of our community, is a better option for the long term of the community than a asphalt roof. I mean, as you're coming down the hill, the community center, it's a historic building. It should be maintained in the historic character. But I do think that exploring the options and asking that question is something we should consider now. Especially as Jason pointed out, if we can't even do it immediately.
Okay. Okay. The next thing is a request for authorization to award the bid for the replacement of the Art Center windows. We went out to bid on this. We're recommending that we go with the CNC Glass, which is the lowest responsible bidder at $22,550. This is in the operating budget. Where's Rob? Right, so the money's already been allocated. I think we had $29,000 allocated for the project.
Yeah, I think you're correct. And we were actually also looking at, there might have been some money left over from one of the other capital.
The community center windows.
Yeah. So yes, that's correct. It was anticipated in the operating, but we may find a few dollars and be able to close out a prior project and shift some of the money.
Okay, great. The next item actually isn't on here, isn't on the work session agenda. It's a late addition, but before I forget about it, there's a letter of credit for Kerry Homes. This is a project that's been ongoing and their current letter of credit has expired. We're very concerned that the letter of credit be maintained. This protects the town against the job not being finished in a proper way and allows us to be able to step in and make whatever improvements need to be made if the job falls off or is stopped for any reason. So we've been watching this one rather carefully. So it's going to be a resolution that I'm going to ask you to approve later in the evening, but I just wanted you to be aware of it. Nick, I'm just going to go through the last two of these real quickly. And then I see that Janet's with us. Okay, to talk about the sewer. Okay. The next one is authorization for road paving services. It's a request from DPW. It's in the estimated amount of $973,914.80 to complete our paving for the rest of the year. Let's see. This is the fall paving that we had scheduled. Let's see. Under the. So they're adding the train station paving of the south lot for just shy of $87,000. And this will conclude the paving for the rest of the year. Oh, I'm sorry. So Rob, is this only for the 87,000 or is this for the full amount?
This is for both. So the 886,000 amount is
right.
What would complete the regular paving that was in the operating budget for the year. The 87,000, I believe, completes the train station parking lot improvements. That was a previously approved capital project that's been funded over a period of years from transfers of operating based on an increase in the parking permit fees several years ago.
And this should complete the, this completes the paving of the back parking lot.
Yep, I believe so.
Mm-hmm. And I will be announcing later in my administrator's report, but we will be doing the culvert, the Tertia Brook culvert. That should be starting on Monday. So with that section of parking lot will be done as well once they replace the bridge there. Okay, finally. And last,
Still, I'm wondering if for I don't know if it's possible to do this for the newsletter tomorrow, but perhaps for next week, if we could publish the remaining road paving schedule for this calendar year at this point. So I know that we had to make some necessary and appropriate adjustments as a result of the storms and the significant setbacks that we had with DPW, and the fact that they were sort of pulled off of jobs and needed to do the road reopening and tree clearing and so on. So we are not necessarily going to get to everything that we had hoped to get to this year, but if we can set what those final sort of set of expectations are for ourselves for the rest of the year, I think that would be a nice thing for the public to be able to be aware of.
Okay.
Thanks.
And neighborhoods, for the most part, should have a little bit of a heads up, because they'll know if there was drainage work done on their roads. They should do drainage work first before we come in and do the paving. So sort of spilled the beans there. We'll get that information to you. And last, before we go on to the sewer petition from Summit Greenfield, is the request from DPW for additional scope of services work from Sulzer. If you recall, Sulzer is the manufacturer of the pumps at the Inningwood pump station. We have replaced both pumps, which were needed due to reservoir work, the Catskill Aqueduct and New York City DEC, forgive me on that one, rehabilitation work. We had to switch aqueducts, and as a result, we had to utilize the Inningwood pump station to pump water to our Millwood treatment plant for several weeks this past year. Next year, as their rehabilitation continues, we will have to use it again. It'll be for a series of months. We currently have a redundant system at the Inningwood pump station. We've got 2 functional pumps. We would like to have a third fully operational pump on site. These pumps are mammoth, and they sit several hundred feet under the under the surface. They take about a week to take and actually pull out of the ground to repair anything that needs to be repaired, and it has cost us a tremendous amount of angst and strife and grief, as we have learned after the pump got put in the ground this past time that it didn't work properly and basically set everybody's schedule back. We would like to have a belt and suspenders approach to making sure that the town has water as these shutdowns of the aqueducts continue over the next several years. And this is our best approach to making sure that we've got what we need on site, so that if heaven forbid a pump is lost, that we're in a position to be able to get back up and running. So it's significant, but we're talking about $113,360. It comes out of the water operating budget, so these are not general funds. And we're going to ask the board for permission to be able to proceed with that project tonight. Thank you.
You know what that raises for me is just that it's already starting to be late September. I can't believe it, but we will have the winter shutdown once again, the cutover from the Aqueduct Catskill to the Croton. And despite best efforts, many residents were unaware that was happening, and we fielded a lot of questions and concerns last winter. So to the extent that you and I can kind of learn from that, that, I don't want to say mistake, but it was, we can do better this time. Let's put it that way.
We will do better. Yeah.
So,
maybe
we can plan for that to be an agenda item sometime sooner rather than later, so that we can think about how to effectively communicate that in advance. That would be great.
Yes, and I'm hoping that New York City does a better job with their scheduling and notification to us, so that we can in turn notify our neighbors, our residents, in a timely manner.
Thank you. I knew there was a reason that you and I weren't responsible for that, Jill.
No problem. We're on a need to know basis.
And we'll do better.
And we'll still do better. So all good. Oh, good. All right. Nick, Janet, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. We're up to authorization to set a public hearing for the sewer petition on the creation of a new sewer district.
Good. Why don't I ask Janet if you can just provide an introduction and explain the request on the sewer petition?
Okay.
Janet unmuted.
Well, Janet's on the phone, so hard to say.
I don't see her there, so nope, we have to unmute Janet.
How's
There
that?
we go. That's good. We
There
can
we
hear
go.
you.
All right, there you go. All right. So thank you very much for having me. It's so nice to see everybody. I miss seeing all of you in person. Jill, if you need help with noticing, I'm very good at noticing neighbors. Just wanted to offer up my assistance with that.
Consider the offer accepted.
So before you this evening, we submitted a petition for the creation of a sewer district. As you might remember, and for the board members who are new, nice to see you. This requirement was one of the conditions of approval in connection with all of the Chappaqua Crossing approvals. As you might know, there was installation of extensive sewer and sewer pipes in the area. And in order for us to be able to provide for town ownership and the operation of those sewer mains and appurtenances, we need to create a sewer district to include this property in a sewer district. It's not included in any one of the town sewer districts that exists. So Nick and I have actually been working on this for probably over a year. There's a map, plan, and report, which is a requirement under the law, which is an exhibit to the petition, and we've worked very diligently with your town engineer to get that so he is satisfied with that map, plan, and report. So that's why this took a little bit longer to get to you, and then obviously with COVID. So this is, as I mentioned, this is a petition seeking the establishment of a sewer district pursuant to Article 12 of New York Town Law. We've asked that it be called the Northern Sewer District Number 3, but what you actually call it is certainly, whatever it is that you'd like to call it. We just thought that that would be appropriate under the circumstances. This is designed to serve the property, which is all of the Chappaqua Crossing site, except for the 4 lots that are on Roaring Brook Road, because there's no reason for them to be in that district, because there's nothing going to be constructed ever on that property, which would be served by sewer. The reason that there are 2 petitioners, SG Chappaqua B LLC is the owner of the larger Chappaqua Crossing site. SG Option Lot 4 is the owner of the property that was formerly known as 57 Roaring Brook Road, and in connection with the master subdivision approval that we just did in December and that we are trying to finalize with the county, there was a sliver of that property, just a few hundred square feet, which is being carved off of the former 57 Roaring Brook Road and being appended to the Chappaqua Crossing site, and that's in the vicinity of where the driveway is that goes out onto Roaring Brook Road. So because the subdivision hasn't been completed and the conveyance of that small sliver hasn't occurred yet, you've got the 2 petitioners, but this is the property that's always been considered for the sewer district. It's something that was reviewed as part of the approvals process by both the planning board and the town board. It's addressed in the secret finding statement. There's nothing new here. This is really just sort of really administrative at this point, and it's to satisfy a condition of approval. One of the things that was required early on was that the county sewer district be expanded to include this. That's been done. So this is kind of the last step, and will satisfy one of the outstanding conditions of the Chappaqua Crossing approval. So the first step is for you to set a public hearing. I think that you have in your packages this evening a resolution. New York Town Law requires that it be called an order. It's the same thing. It's just a resolution setting a public hearing. We would respectfully request that you set that hearing and that we can try to move forward and get this accomplished.
We have tentatively set it for October 27th.
Yes, and as Janet indicated, the town staff in our office has reviewed it. Everything is in order and ready to be noticed for that public hearing.
Great. Okay.
There's no reason, Nick, why this shouldn't proceed.
That is correct. It's ready to proceed.
What sewer district are the current buildings that are operating, right? There's a handful of buildings that are already operating. I assume there's already active sewer lines to them for Lifetime, for Whole Foods and so forth. What sewer district are they in?
Well, the property is not currently in a sewer district, but there are mains and other infrastructure that are servicing them. So, and they are within a county sewer district, but they need to be within a town sewer district.
So,
And we're
so
adding
they're in the
those.
sawmill. They're in the
Right.
sawmill sewer district, but they're just not in a local yet.
Right. So you're basically taking the existing sewer infrastructure and creating a district to absorb it, because the existing way it's being done can no longer continue because the property is going to be under separate ownership, and it was a condition of the land use approvals, and the county requires it as well that this sewer district be created. There wasn't a need for a sewer district when it was under one ownership because they controlled everything. But now that the pipes go across different properties, it's got to be in a sewer district.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Probably more info than you wanted to know.
Okay, that's all I've got for the work session.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you so much. Be well, everyone. See
Thanks.
you on
Bye.
October 27th.
Okay.
Okay, does that conclude the work session?
It does.
Can we get a motion to close the work session and open up the town board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So good evening, everyone, and welcome again to the town board meeting for September 22nd, 2020. We have just a couple of announcements. I'll start with my supervisor's report, which I tried to keep at least somewhat shorter than I have in the past. So no news is good news, by which I mean that our number of total active cases of COVID seem to have stabilized over the past 2 days. We currently have, both Monday and today, 21 active cases in the town of Newcastle, where an active case is defined as a positive COVID test that has been received within the past 2 weeks. These numbers are trending in the right direction. You'll recall that last Friday we were up to 25 cases, and the Friday before that we had been only at 6 cases. So the numbers are trending in the right direction, but they still remain pretty high, especially as compared to where we were over the summer. However, in speaking with County Executive George Latimer during our weekly elected officials briefing, the county executive said that he's relatively unconcerned by the recent increase in the number of active cases throughout the county. And he explained that the number of active cases is due in part to an increase in the amount of testing that the county is doing. And so if you look instead at the county's infection rate, which is the percentage of tests that are given that come back positive, that remains low. So that is still less than 1% throughout the county. So even though the numbers have gone up a little bit, there is a little bit of a rationale there. And we also look and pay close attention to the number of people who are hospitalized throughout the county, which is only 37. Only, obviously we think about all of those people and have them in our thoughts and prayers. But that again is a relatively low number as compared to where we were certainly back in the spring. And luckily there have been no fatalities within the past week. So that's this week's COVID report. Moving along, tonight, the town board will be considering our leaf blower legislation. We have a resolution this evening to pass our local law with regard to restricting the use of gas-powered leaf blowers, banning their use during the summer months. So we will be voting on that this evening. Heads up to Christina. We are going to do a roll call vote on this to allow each of the town board members to speak to their vote. This has been a long time coming, and I know folks are eager to explain the historic nature of tonight's vote. So this is actually Climate Week. And so this is a great moment for the town to be voting on this legislation. So I want to give everybody an opportunity to weigh in and talk about why this vote is important to them and why they're voting the way they are. So stay tuned. That's coming up later this evening. The last thing I wanted to talk about in my supervisor's report, and I will have more than this, as I always do, in the newsletter that'll come out tomorrow. But the last thing I wanted to talk about tonight is about our form-based code. So on Friday morning, this coming Friday, the town board will be holding a special meeting at 8:30 a.m., a public meeting, and we'll provide notice on that, to accept the draft generic environmental impact statement for the form-based code for the Chappaqua Hamlet. The DGEIS, as it is known, is the comprehensive analysis that we've all been waiting for of the potential environmental impacts resulting from the maximum build-out scenario that's allowable under our potential zoning, our proposed zoning. The DGEIS considers all of the environmental conditions, the anticipated impacts, and potential mitigations for a number of areas: land use, zoning, visual resources and community character, natural resources, infrastructure and utilities, traffic, transportation and parking, cultural resources, community facilities and services, socioeconomics, hazardous materials, and noise and air qualities. So as you can hear, it's quite extensive in terms of the number of areas that have been analyzed. The DGEIS also examines alternatives to what we've proposed in our draft form-based code. So we've also looked at what would happen under existing conditions if there were no changes made to our zoning legislation. We've looked at what would happen if there were no action on public land. And we've also looked at what would happen if there were a reduction in the maximum proposed building height under our new zoning ordinance. Upon acceptance, which may happen on Friday, that's what we will discuss on Friday. Upon acceptance, the DGEIS will be available on the town's website that has been created for the form-based code project. It is Chappaqua Forward, all one word, chappaqua.forward.org. So what does this all mean? If you have questions about what this means and you're sort of scratching your head, and this is a lot that we're talking about sort of releasing to the public, and we know that, and we appreciate that. So please consider joining us for one of our 3 community engagement sessions for the form-based code. You can learn more about those sessions, the first of which will be coming up on Tuesday night, and then there will be one per week for each of the 2 following weeks as well. These meetings are going to be opportunities for you to learn about what's in that DGEIS, to have us sort of break it down for you, to explain the proposed code to you, and to allow you to be able to ask questions and to get answers from our experts. Following these 3 community engagement sessions, the town board will then hold public hearings. We're all familiar with how public hearings work. The town board will be on hand to listen to the public comments and to be considering them with regard to what changes we need to include in our final GEIS. So the last thing I wanted to say to residents of this community is please rest assured that the town board, our hearts and minds are open to a range of possibilities at this point. And we really want to seize upon every possible opportunity to engage with residents about this project. We simply ask that residents give us the same consideration, to engage with us with a genuine curiosity about what is possible, as opposed to a reflexive opposition to change. Together, I believe that we can form a future for the Chappaqua Hamlet that's mindful of our community's unique character, that's consistent with our vision for the future, and that's capable of delivering a more vibrant and thriving hamlet. That's everything I have for tonight's supervisor's report. I'll turn it over to Jill Shapiro for the town administrator's report. You're on mute, Jill.
Sorry, what I said was I sure won't be as eloquent as that, even on mute. Thank you. School tax collection. The first half of the 2020-2021 school tax bill is due without penalty next Wednesday, September 30th. If you, as opposed to your bank, are responsible for the payment of property taxes, including these school taxes, and have not received your bill, please contact the tax office, 238-4773, or email taxes@mynewcastle.org. We encourage the public to use the drop box in the lobby of Town Hall, as well as mailing in their tax payments. Make sure you see the post office affix a U.S. postmark for proof of timely mailing. We remind the residents that the tax office will hold post-dated checks so that you don't have to wait till the last minute to drop off your check. We will hold it to the last day of collection if that's what you prefer. We also have, we also offer residents the ability to pay taxes online. There's no charge for using our online system to pay taxes via ACH. So that's through like your checking account. If you do use a credit card, there is a service charge. If you are paying school taxes on the very last day, that would be September 30th, staff will be present to accept tax payment on the first floor lobby that's adjacent to the police station and across the street from the library from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you're paying in cash, the exact amount is required, and cash payments can only be accepted from 8:30 to 4:40 on any day. Tertia Brook Culvert Replacement Project. I am thrilled to report, and I've got my fingers crossed, that Con Ed will be completing the last of their work, which is the removal of 3 utility poles this Saturday. They have assured us that they will keep one lane of traffic open that allows people patronizing the farmers market to get from the front parking lot to the back parking lot, still using Old Pines Bridge Road. This will allow the demolition and replacement work for the Tertia Brook Culvert to begin on Monday, September 28th. I'm going to just ask the public to watch for signs reflecting changing traffic patterns through the back lot during the construction. And I'll have a little bit more information on that later in the week. And last but not least, the 2021 tentative budget is in the midst of being prepared. We will be presenting it to the board at its October 6th meeting. And we will begin our meetings with department heads that evening during the town board meeting on the 6th, and then finishing up in the morning on the 7th. And that's what we've been doing. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Jill. Just before I move on, I wanted to check in with the other town board members, whether anyone had anything they wanted to announce or speak about at the top. Okay, I'm getting a no. So we'll go ahead and move forward. We've come to the part of our agenda that's dedicated to public comment and new business. Christina, I'll check with you first. Did we receive any public comments this evening?
No, we haven't received any. We've received some, earlier in the week and last week, and we forward those on to the board, but nothing for tonight's meeting.
Great. Thanks, Christina. Do we have anyone in the audience, attendees, who would like to speak at tonight's meeting? Carrie, I see that we have one attendee who has their hand raised at this point. If we could move Suzanne into the meeting.
Okay, Suzanne, just unmute yourself and you can speak.
I think I just unmuted myself.
We can hear you. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi. I had a question about Friday's meeting. I'm not clear exactly what that involves. Is that something the public is part of for this draft environmental impact statement? Is it simply going to be just a pro forma and then you make it available on Chappaqua Forward? How is that going to work?
So it's an administrative meeting. The town board has to administratively accept as complete the draft generic environmental impact statement. It is, as all town board meetings are, a public meeting, and so it will be noticed, and certainly you're welcome to join us for that. That said, the real opportunity for you to be able to engage with us around this would start on Tuesday night with the community engagement sessions.
Just one other question. You mentioned public hearings after the 3 public engagement sessions?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so the engagement sessions are really, when we get this draft generic environmental impact statement, it's a binder size book, basically,
right,
of material, right? That will be available to the public. It's dense. So understanding that it's dense, we wanted to give an opportunity for the public to be able to come and learn basically how to engage with that material, how to go through it, how to understand it. And then as you're doing that, to be able to ask questions of us about what it is that you're looking at. So it's really an opportunity to ask questions and get answers, as opposed to a traditional public hearing, which is more geared towards us hearing your public comments and then the town board considering those in order to make a determination as to what changes we need to make. So a little bit more interactive, a little bit more casual than a public hearing would be.
Okay, and then, and sorry, just to bother you with one more time, the hearings, how many hearings will be held after there's the 3 public engagement sessions?
So that's to be determined basically by the nature of the public hearings. So, we are required, and Nick Ward-Willis, I will ask you to jump in with the legal requirements here, but my understanding is that we are required to have 1 public hearing. My assumption at this point is that we would have enough comments and enough sort of issues to go through that we would warrant more than 1 on this process. But that would be determined based on kind of how much we're able to move through and how much engagement there is in the first public hearing. Nick, can you?
That's correct. Yep, absolutely. That's correct, Ivy. The secret regulations require that there be a public hearing held on the DGEIS, and that there, after the close of that hearing, would be a public comment period for 10 days to receive additional comments in writing. It's up to the town board's discretion based upon the comments and other factors as to whether they'll continue that hearing after the first night.
Can I ask just one more question? Is there going to be at some point a design plan? I mean, I know you have this as a regulating plan, and you have, and forgive me, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not an urban planner, but it seems like there's a regulating plan talking about the different, specifics about it, but is there going to be like drawings to be able to say, this is what it's going to look like, this is how it's going to see, this is how the green space is, this is how the building's going to look? Is anything like that going to be part of either the public engagement or the public hearing?
So there'll be a lot of drawings and a lot of graphics on display at these community engagement sessions. So I'm really hopeful that you'll be able to make it to one of those 3 sessions. That said, there isn't a drawing of what it's going to be because it isn't a master plan for our community, right? It is zoning. So we don't know what it's going to be because what we're changing is our underlying zoning. We're not creating a master plan that we're building to. That said, there are, as I mentioned, sort of different scenarios that have been explored as a part of the DGEIS, and there are images that represent those scenarios that we'll be able to go through when we sit down together at these.
So there won't be, to just be clear, there won't be a formal design plan phase on this, where there's an actual drawings that show this is how it'll be. As I understand it, there's usually a design plan phase before a regulating plan phase, to show where the parking will be, to show where the buildings will be, how the buildings will interact with green space, what the various features will be, and how it will look all put together. I realize.
Yeah, so again, I suggest you come to the community engagement sessions and take a look at the representations that'll be shown at those sessions. And that would really be the opportunity to engage with the experts who, unfortunately are not with us this evening, but that can speak to this question more eloquently than I can.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just want to add, Suzanne, this is, again, to sort of reiterate and make it clear what Ivy just said, this is not a development plan that we are saying, we're going to put this building here and it's going to look like X, and we're going to put this here and it's going to look like Y. That is not remotely, it may be billed by some that that's what this is, but it's not remotely like that. We are not developers. We are not in the business of development.
No, but you're facilitating what the developers will be able to do.
We're facilitating what we believe is consistent with the master plan to keep the hamlets bucolic, to keep them more concentrated with people as opposed to, for example, on each of the ends in the rural spaces, but cognizant, because I know this is your issue, without parking, cognizant about traffic, meaning foot and vehicular. So these are all things that are considered, but this is not, we're going to have this size structure here, but we know, for example, one of the things we don't want to see is whether it's 2 stories, 3 stories or more, everything the exact same size, being one across the board. There needs to be, look differently and allow it to be, for lack of a term, easier on the eyes. But don't misconstrue what this is and what this isn't. And, you know, I know that there's been some information about there that this new code makes provisions for the sale of the parking lot. You know, the parking lot could have been sold last week, 10 years ago. There's always the same law. It's still the same law. We're not changing that about a public referendum.
The parking lot, as I believe, is currently
So-
industrial zone,
So correct. So in theory, it could be sold to someone to build industrial there.
but they
So,
probably wouldn't be.
So well, there you go. There you go, Suzanne. It wouldn't be. The point being is that you're absolutely correct. Let's not think that because you are seeing what we are required by law to show you and others, which is the complete and total build out, because that's what one needs to see, that that is feasible to happen. And in fact, will happen, that every private property owner, forget the town, then we'll throw in the town, says, we want to build this out. We're all going to do this and it's all going to happen. It's just, it has to be done to represent what it would be. But this is not a development plan. It is not what we're seeking to develop. We're not developers. So I do encourage you to come, because there's a lot of accidental misinformation and frankly intentional misinformation about
And
this.
Jeremy, I don't want to keep everybody tonight because I know that's not fair and this isn't the point, but I do think that there are some significant concerns, and it is ultimately a plan that is giving a certain license to developers. So I understand. I'm coming to the public engagement session. I'm encouraging others, and I won't keep you now, but I just wanted to find out how, you know, things are going up in addition to not only public engagement sessions, but public hearings after that. So thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I just ask to make sure when you share your information online, it's accurate and consistent with what is being presented here and all the countless times this has been during Ivy's tenure and prior with Rob Greenstein's tenure, what's been presented to the public. So we're happy to have you continue to join and make your comments, and everybody for that matter.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do we have any other attendees who are here this evening who would like to make a comment during our public comment period?
And just raise your digital hand or type into the chat. I don't see anybody right now. And there's no one on YouTube that I see.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. So that takes us to our authorization to set a public hearing.
The resolutions, does anyone want to start them?
Yep.
Jeremy, you're on mute.
I said I don't have mine up, so if someone else wants to start with the resolutions.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is that, I don't see that as number one.
It's not number one.
It's not.
Maybe
It may not be, but it is on the agenda. That's what it is. So.
So here, I move to set a public hearing for the SG Summit Greenfield sewer petition for the creation of a new sewer district for October 27th, 2020 at Newcastle Town Hall at 6
Right,
p.m.
it's more fully set forth in resolution number 23 in the agenda packet.
Was that not good enough?
Yeah, why don't we
Well,
jump?
Agenda 22, sorry. Yeah, because it's a couple more items, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Lisa.
Okay.
Can we get a second?
No, he wants me to add more. Hold on.
Or just
Just
reference.
say as referenced in the resolution
And as referenced in the resolution.
before the board as item 22.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Want to go back to number one?
Yeah, let's do that. All right, all right. I move to approve the payment of claims in the amount of $176,143.41 listed on the summary pre-check writing report and detailed voucher detail report, each prepared on September 21st, 2020. Checks will be issued and mailed to each claim listed on Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to adopt the work session town board minutes from September 15th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to authorize the hiring of Brioni Cockler as a recreational attendant in the Arts Center with the Recreation and Parks Department, an hourly rate of $16 per hour effective September 23rd, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I move to authorize the hiring of Mark Nieder to the position of labor within the Department of Public Works Water Unit, annual salary of $48,055.31 effective September 28th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are we continuing on with the rest of them? I'm sorry.
Lauren, it's your turn.
Sorry, I
It's
know.
so hard when we're not sitting in a row.
I got totally sidetracked here. Sorry. I move to authorize the transfer of Lauren Cascone from the position of secretary to the town administrator to the position of deputy town clerk effective September 28th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Congratulations.
congrats, Lauren. Hope to still see you. I move to authorize the hiring of Tiffany White to the position of secretary to the town administrator within the administration department at the annual salary of $60,000 effective September 28th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome, Tiffany.
I move to authorize the resignation of Monica DiGenosi from the position of the co-chair of the Beautification Advisory Board effective immediately September 22nd, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you for your service.
Thank
How
you.
long was it, Jill?
And I move to authorize the resignation of Greg Sanzari from the position of planning board member effective immediately September 22nd, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Can I not be in favor and tell him he can't resign? I want to keep him.
Yes, yes, you can.
Once he's part of the family, he can't escape. All right.
That's correct.
Aye.
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 Thank you, Greg.
Yes. I move to authorize the release of one of two bonds placed for the open road permit 2020-0017 in the amount of $10,000 to Tavo Holdings LLC for 1 Sutton Farms.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I authorize the change of the commuter merchant parking permit term to December 15th, 2020 through December 14th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the Parent Teacher Association to utilize Gedney Pavilion as a rain location for their family photo days for the dates and times listed below. So noted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to award the contract for professional consulting engineering services for above ground petroleum bulk storage tanks and equipment at the DPW facility, along with underground tank removal to Lero Engineers, Inc. for the estimated cost of $53,740.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now with reference to the Millwood Water Treatment Plant boilers, I hereby decline the bid submitted by the two lowest bidders, which failed to comply with the town's bid specifications for the replacement of two boilers at the Millwood Water Treatment Plant, including removal and installation of new ones. And I award the DPW 2020-06 contract to Carey and Walsh, Inc. on North State Road in Briarcliff Manor for the complete turnkey replacement of two boilers at the Millwood Water Treatment Plant to include the removal of existing boilers and the installation of new boilers for the estimated amount of $405,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
As to a closing of a capital project, 2020 DPW wood chipper purchase. Now therefore be resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the closing of the 2020 DPW wood chipper purchase capital project based on the recommendation verification from all parties and departments involved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is it me?
Yeah, 15.
All right. I move to authorize Wall Street Rides FAR 2020 to utilize town property and pass through Byram Lake Road on Saturday, October 3rd, 2020 during the hours of 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Why don't we hold 16 and do it last?
Okay. I move to authorize the Recreation and Parks Department to hire Keith Gordon as an independent contractor and authorize entering into a contractual agreement to teach class at the Art Center at the rate of $100 per class.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I move to award the bid for the replacement of the 17 Art Center windows located at 939 Hardscrabble Road to CNC Glass, 575 East 19th Street, Paterson, New Jersey, 07514 for the total cost of $22,550.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Over to you, Jason.
Sure. This is for roof replacement.
Yeah,
Yep, you're not doing 19.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
you're not
hold
doing
that.
hold.
Okay.
And we need someone else to
I'll
introduce
move
this
to
one.
authorize
Yeah.
the purchase of road paving services from Montesano Brothers Incorporated for the estimated amount of $970,914.20.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay. Nay. Sorry.
I move to authorize the purchase of additional scope of work item from Seltzer Pump Services Incorporated, which includes item number 14, wet end assembly for $79,500, and item number 15, shafts and couplings for $32,500, as well as a transportation cost of $1,360 for a grand total estimated cost of $113,360 and no pennies.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
I move to adopt the following resolution authorizing acceptance of letters of credit. Therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby accepts the above referenced amendments to the irrevocable letter of credit number 00101385 and authorizes the supervisor of the town of Newcastle to execute all documents as may be necessary for the purpose of the amendments to the irrevocable letter of credit number 00101385.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And did you get item 21?
Did we get item 21? I think we did. Did we do 21?
Jeremy read that.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move back to item number 16, which is the resolution to adopt a local law to amend Chapter 90 of the Town Code concerning motorized leaf blowers. Let's have someone read this, and then we'll do a roll call vote to allow each board member to discuss their vote.
Sure. I move to adopt the following resolution. Whereas the town board introduced a local law to amend Chapter 90 of the Town Code of the Town of Newcastle to regulate the use of motorized leaf blowers in the Town of Newcastle. And whereas the proposed local law limits the use of motorized leaf blowers to control dust pollution, eliminate health hazards, promote safe leaf blower equipment, and minimize noise pollution resulting from the use of motorized leaf blowers in the Town of Newcastle. And whereas the town board held a public hearing on the proposed local law on July 14th, 2020, and continued to August 11th, 2020, and September 8th, 2020, at which time all those wishing to comment on the local law were given such opportunity. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board, in accordance with 6 NYCRR Part 617, and upon a review of the full environmental assessment form and all other materials prepared, hereby adopts the attached negative declaration for the proposed actions. Be it further resolved that the town board hereby adopts the proposed local law to amend Chapter 90 of the Town Code concerning motorized leaf blowers.
Now, we're going to do a roll call vote on this. So I'm going to start with Deputy Supervisor Salan. How do you vote?
I vote in the affirmative. I want to share why. I think that this legislation is imperfect. I'm sure there are I'm confident there are people who would come on both sides and say it's too restrictive, and others would say quite the opposite. Some of the issues that we've grappled with in terms of lot sizes, must participate in this, who's not subject to it. There's also practical implications about cost and things along those lines. But in its entirety, we have a responsibility to even take these small steps with leaf blowers, because I firmly believe that each of these steps may be a small block in a foundation, but ultimately for future generations, and those now, we have to move forward. We have to be, when I say progressive, go towards and move towards a more sustainable future. Keeping the same status quo is easy, but this is not about the path of least resistance. Sometimes decisions will upset people. Sometimes it'll make them very happy and pleased. But I'm excited about this legislation. I understand that there's always can be an opportunity to revisit it one way or another. And I encourage my colleagues, while it's not a piece of this legislation, to consider a means by which we can help offset the costs to residents in terms of their purchasing equipment that's consistent with the law. I also encourage this town board, and I believe we've been doing so, and since I've been serving previously, as well as future town boards, to take those steps to be positive in terms of environmental actions. I think I'm excited. We were a part of the clean energy community that secured a $100,000 grant, the plastic bag legislation, Solarize, and I just read something about Chappaqua Central School District about a $1 million or $1.5 million donation to help build a sustainability research center. So this town leads by example. It's on the cutting edge, and I'm very grateful, as I know everyone here is, for our Sustainability Advisory Board. They've done a tremendous job, a great job, an amazing job, a fabulous job, constantly are doing that and delivering for this community. So in short, I understand it's imperfect, but I'm excited to move this forward, and I vote in the affirmative.
Thank you. Councilmember Cass, how do you vote?
I also vote affirmatively on this law. I'll be slightly more succinct than my esteemed colleague. And I guess I want to first thank the SAB for all their hard work. And I also want to thank all of our residents, and as well as the opponents to this law, because I think because of your comments on this, it actually became a much better law than initially proposed. And while we did list some dates here, this law has actually been circulated for well over a year or two. So we've been considering this for a while. I am proud that Newcastle has been on the forerunner in environmental legislation, and I agree with Jeremy that this is imperfect, and I expect that it will evolve. And but I'm proud of it, and I think it's going to do a lot of good. And I think there's a lot further we can go in terms of looking at pesticide use and other things that are actually one of the reasons we adopted this as well, to stop the spread of some of those things. I think we have to look at the source as well. So I think we can go further, and I'm sure our SAB will be on top of other legislation in the future. But I think this is a good start, and so I'm in favor of this.
Okay, and I apologize. I actually jumped the gun. I didn't get a second. So if you'll, if I know that Jason moved this, so is there anyone that would like to second this?
Second.
And I just
Okay,
want to
thank
confirm
you.
for record that Jeremy, your votes, and Lisa, your votes stay the same now that the motion is being seconded.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Now that you mentioned it, should I reconsider, Nick? What's
Just
this?
for the record.
Sorry,
What's this thing?
I jumped the gun. Asking. Okay, and so Council Member Levin, can you tell me how you vote?
I'm also voting in favor of the law. I want to thank the Sustainability Advisory Board, as well as all the residents who participated and engaged in this topic. It's been a couple of years, and although in the past, perhaps 2 years or even 3 years ago, I would not have voted in favor of this. I think the technology has absolutely arrived on electric leaf blowers. And to Jeremy's point, I would absolutely support a buyback program. There's actually a budget line for town board special projects that we could look to help our residents offset these costs. And lastly, I think that what's really important here is that we're heading in the right direction. And and to Jeremy and Lisa's point, it's definitely imperfect. At the same time, like I think that we just have to move the ball forward and you know, provide for our future. And so I thank everyone, and thanks for your time.
Thank you for your vote. Okay, Councilmember Lichtenthal.
Well, I vote yes, aye, affirmative on the proposed local town law based similarly on the points that my fellow town board members made. I do have a few points that I'd like to make that I feel are worth noting. I think that the proposed local law has unfortunately been watered down, and that it will take a small step in meeting its environmental goals. For a few months of the year, people will need to use an electric leaf blower, mostly during the time when leaf blowers are more minimally needed. There's already a time period in which noise by domestic tools and equipment of this type can be feasibly run, which is just being tweaked by this proposed local law. So it's not really a big change regarding reduction of nuisance noise. Regarding the kick-up of particulate in the air and destruction of insect habitats, whether gas-powered or electric, the leaf blowers will both do the same thing. So there's minimal advantage for one over the other. Modern 4-stroke gas-powered leaf blowers only have a modest increase in noise levels from their electric counterparts. There's no upper limit sound decibel level for leaf blowers during the allowable hours of usage. There are many other domestic tools, specifically various types of lawnmowers, that also kick up particulate and create significant noise pollution, which is not addressed. And lastly, the requirement that the Newcastle Police Department needs to witness any leaf blower infractions, just like any other infractions, makes penalties unlikely, even when reported. Though I will say, well, this is not a leaf blower ban, nor is it even an outright gas leaf blower ban. It's an encouragement to move to electric. With that said, I believe we need to move forward with this proposal, which will have some positive impact, and now over 2 years in the making, so that our Sustainability Advisory Board can help work on new impactful policies that our town can use to protect the environment and our ecosystem. Thank you so much to the SAB for your work on this over the last 2 years. Therefore, I vote in the affirmative.
Thank you. And certainly last but not least, Supervisor Poole, how do you vote?
I also vote yes on this legislation. And I too have a couple of comments that I just want to make. You know, I said at the top during my supervisor's report that it's timely that the town board is voting on this evening, because this is actually Climate Week 2020. 5 years ago, 196 countries signed on to the Paris Agreement for Climate Change, which was a landmark framework, as we all know, for climate action. Here in Newcastle, under the leadership of my predecessor, Supervisor Rob Greenstein, and with the robust backing of the Newcastle Sustainability Advisory Board, we agreed locally to uphold the Paris Climate Agreement by taking proactive, meaningful steps to reduce emissions and demonstrating consistent progress over time. And while the federal government has pulled out of the Paris Accord, and we have sadly watched as the world has fallen further and further behind of where we need to be, the town of Newcastle has remained deeply committed to climate justice. And we're increasingly mindful that it's up to us at the local levels to be the change that we wish to see in the world. When the SAB began working on this legislation 3 years ago, none of us could have foreseen the multiple challenges that we would come to face here in 2020. The COVID crisis, the social justice revolution, the wildfires and hurricanes and tropical storms and other weather-related events that are disrupting our world and our own community. And the lesson that I take away from this year is that there's a critical and urgent need to adopt and adapt to a new normal. We're not going to stand still, and we're not going to go back to the way that things were. This legislation that we're passing here tonight, as you've heard from each of the council members, it's not a panacea to the climate crisis. And in fact, I think, as Jason eloquently stated, I think that many of us wish that it went further in one way or another, either by eliminating the exemptions that are included in the local law, reducing the allowable hours under which the blowers can be used, or introducing a year-round ban on gas blowers. This is a first step. And all of that said, I believe that this local law is reasonable, reasoned, readily understood, and enforceable. And that's why I'm voting yes on this. This legislation is in fact a meaningful step forward in our ongoing efforts to demonstrate progress in reducing emissions and addresses the noise and quality of life concerns that we have been hearing from residents who are working from home during the pandemic and may in fact be working from home for the foreseeable future. Now, I don't say this lightly, especially considering the fact that it took 3 years to pass this legislation. But adopting the legislation is actually the easy part. The hard part is what comes next, implementation, and that begins right now. The SAB and the town are committed to robust change management and implementation. And that effort will include education and awareness for residents, working closely with the landscaping industry, and coming up with an enforcement strategy. And as Lauren alluded to, as the technology changes and continues to evolve, and as we measure and reflect on the implementation of our local law, I am committed, and I believe the town board is committed to continuing to evolve this legislation so that it continues to be meaningful. The last thing I just want to say is I sincerely want to thank our Sustainability Advisory Board, and in particular, Rand Manassi, who served as the project manager for this initiative over the long haul, who never gave up on us and always kept coming back. Steve Wolk, who's the chair of the SAB, for his leadership throughout, and the work group who supported this project, including Tracy Stein, Kathy Schreiber, Jennifer Meads-Flagg, among others. And lastly, I want to thank and acknowledge the leadership of former town supervisor Rob Greenstein, whose personal commitment to this issue helped to sustain and strengthen the legislation over time as well. So I'm voting yes as well. And I also want to ask if we can bring Rand into the conversation, because I understand that he has his hand up and would like to make a comment.
Okay.
Fran, just unmute yourself.
Hi there, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great, thank you. And I want to thank you from the SAB as well for the town's persistence and thoroughness of the town board, and for this town board and the previous one, for Rob Greenstein and all of his efforts, for Jill, for your efforts as well, and for all the departments of the town. It's been a long process, but it's been a thorough one. And I think that makes the legislation all the more important for all we have done for passing this legislation to limit the use of these devices that adversely affect the health and environment, the quality of life of the residents of the town, and the workers that also come into our town on a daily basis, because they get affected by the use of these gas leak blowers. This is really a major step forward, but it's also, as you all pointed out, the first of one of many steps that we're going to have to go through. Our work at the SAB does start now, as well as the town helping us as we work through the steps of implementing this legislation that will now have the possible effects of trying to help the environment, the quality of life, the particles that get dispersed into the atmosphere. Really, I do want to, though, thank you all for your leadership. It's been a long process, but it's been a great process. I've enjoyed working with all of you as we've taken this step and created this leadership and this vision. So really, just want to say thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Rand.
So if we are ready, Supervisor Poole, is it okay? I think we have everyone in favor. Looks like the motion is carried.
Thank you, Christina.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so that includes our resolutions for this evening and our town board agenda. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everyone.